What's the weirdest scenario you have ever woken up to after drinking? It was January of my freshman year at college in Tampa. I woke up on a park bench next to a homeless man. He said to me when he saw me waking up, "You looked cold, so I covered you up." I was covered in a rather dirty blanket. Upon sitting up and experiencing those first shooting hangover pains, the homeless gentleman, who has now introduced himself as Steven, reaches into his bag and pulls out a flask, handed it to me and said, "This will help." It did. I tried to give Steve what I had in my wallet, little more than $20, but he refused. So I asked him if he slept there often. He said yes. So I went to Target later that day and bought the most comfortable blanket I could find. Had one of the older students buy a handle of Captain and scored a 20. I went back to that same bench and sat there for a while until Steve arrived. Gave him what I had bought and told him that he was the nicest person I'd ever met. I woke up to a homeless man cooking beans on my stove. He then offered me some, which I ate because I was so hungover. Took me a good hour or two to figure out he was homeless. Woke up on a mate's doorstep, outside, wearing a different set of clothes to what I was originally wearing. This mate wasn't even out that night. He woke me up at 9 AM as he was leaving for work. Had loads of bird crap on me as well. On a train, let me tell you, there is nothing like waking up on a freaking train and not remembering going to sleep on one. I woke up on the PATH train, subway between NY and J, once at like 4 AM. I remember getting on it at like midnight. Apparently I had ridden it a few times. I once woke up with a girl I didn't know and 2 of my fingers were broken. I didn't ask her name and just dropped her off, so I'll never really know what happened. A month later I woke up with her again and had to go to the hospital because my foot was still bleeding. Still don't know her name, but she may be a harbinger of my death. She'll end up your wife. That's how these things go. 3 states away from where I started, alone on a bench in a rest area on I-95. Luckily, I still had my pants, wallet and glasses. After a night of drunkenness, glasses are the first thing I make sure I have. I don't know why my first reaction is make sure you can see better instead of make sure your identity can't be stolen and ruined. I woke up curled up in bed with my best friend's parents. Worst wake up ever. LOL story now. I woke up in Korea. I started drinking in Japan. It wasn't until I realized the hotel TV was talking to me in Korean did I realize I was in a different country than the one I started to drink in. Apparently flying a plane drunk is easier than it sounds. After quite a drunken snowy night in college on a nameless island in northern Maine, my friend and I woke up sunburned on a beach in a national park surrounded by Asian tourists taking photos around us. I still don't know how we made the 10-mile ride. And I don't know what foreign tourists were doing in Maine. Life is full of mysteries. Woke up fully dressed with that feeling that something bad happened. Reached over for my glasses which were nowhere to be found. Decided to check my phone for clues but it was gone. Wallet empty. Passport gone. Decided to shower and get cleaned up and discovered a fairly bad cut on my bicep. Wandered into the kitchen in my halls and people start asking me where I went the night before. Frick. I was hoping they could tell me but the mystery remains. Still look at that scar every now and again and wonder WTF happened. Right kidney, gone. Once in college, after a late night bender, we, 6-person dorm, were awakened by yelling in the living room. One guy was missing a tooth. Another guy had a broken collarbone. Broken tooth guy pushed collarbone guy into a wall because he thought the tooth was his fault. This broke the collarbone and we ended up calling M's with a he fell down the stairs story. We also found the missing tooth in a glass of milk in the fridge. Crazy day. Another time, much earlier in life, I woke up in the bushes outside a house with one shoe on. Late for an interview and covered in mud. Friends picked me up and we went straight to the interview. I could barely talk. Had to buy a pair of sandals there and smelled awful. I got the job. Hollister really doesn't give a crap. For your information, I heard that if you knock a tooth out putting it in milk increases the chances of a dentist being able to stick it back in. See MRX below. 1. I woke up at a marina at 6 AM with my left arm and leg hanging off the edge over the water. No freaking idea how I got there. 2. I woke up in a fire pit. with more than 10 friends screaming frick oh frick frick frick. 3. Stayed over at a friend's house. He had an awesome loft bed over a normal bed. I fell asleep below, and he above. We both woke up in the bed opposite to the one we'd fallen asleep in. I had a friend who would always fall into the fire every time we held a bonfire. I'm serious when I say every time. We ended up having to assign a fire protection person after a while, and eventually he learned his lesson. Once I woke up next to my friend and we were both in our underwear on a soaking wet bed with cups everywhere and the bathroom sink running. A week later I woke up wrapped up in my comforter and sleeping on my longboard with my hands in my shoes. I should probably slow down on the drinking. Frick it, dude. Woke up, alone, in the bathtub naked except for a pair of socks, clutching a piece of burnt toast. No butter. Woke up still drunk and stoned on the couch in the suite room of my friend's college dorm. I woke up from the sound of 2 adults walking into the suite. My friend's suite mate had dropped acid and called the paramedics on himself because he was throwing up. I sat up and sat there perfectly still, watched them examine him, and then strap him into a chair to take him out. Nobody acknowledged my existence. In the morning, I wake up in the same location from someone coming into the room. It's the suite mate. He's in a hospital gown with electrodes stuck to his chest. He escaped from the hospital. This sounds like a fun game. Drop acid, call the hospital police and then try to escape. He won. I blacked out on Halloween one year, with my last memory being stumbling away from a riot because I didn't want to get busted for underage drinking. I woke up the next morning in my own bed with no idea how I got there. The back of my shirt was covered in mud. I had a huge gash on my leg, and my phone and iPod were gone. Also, I somehow managed to lose my socks even though my shoes were still on. Apparently, I attempted to ride my bike home from my neighbor's campsite, approximately 15 yards away. Woke up next to a dumpster, bent front wheel, beer cans all around. Still not sure. Alone on a sailboat. Holy frick, me too dang good thing it had a motor because I'm a crappy sailor. Took it to the marina, I assume it belonged to. It had some kind of sticker thing. Tied it up, walked to the road, and hitched a ride to my friend's house. All of this happened at around 4 AM with me not wearing shoes, and I still have no idea whose boat that was. In bed with a friend for whom I had no romantic feelings. He was super hot, though. No pants on, no pants to be found, wearing a shirt but no bra. His mom walks in and says hi, not sour to name. I have your pants. They were soaking wet so I dried them for you. I am still drunk, very drunk, and embarrassed that his mother has just dried my wet pants when I don't know why they're wet. Did I pee myself? Did I get in their hot tub wearing pants? Did I spill all over myself? I get dressed and go to find my friends. Everyone is passed out, so I start obnoxiously waking them up. In the midst of this, I notice I am covered in cuts all over my body, but particularly my hands and arms. Nothing is making sense at this point, obviously. His mom then mentions that a vase full of flowers was broken. Yikes, I was apparently running around, acting like a velociraptor and broke the vase. The water from the vase got all over my pants and I cut myself cleaning it up, and failing at said task. Neither of us know what happened in his bed to this day. It was a fun night before I blacked out. Upvote for wanting to be a velociraptor. About 20 years ago I woke up one morning in the basement of the old Communist Party headquarters in Prague, Czech Republic. This was 1993. My face was in a large pool of warm yellow liquid and I was not sure how I had gotten there. Soviet flags and insignias on the walls. Sprawled bodies were all over the floor and on nearby tables. Last memory is of being in a club and having a very drunk Finnish man laughing, hugging me and telling the women that he was with that we was going to take me into a nearby park, kill me, and steal all my money, which apparently is a funny prank to play on an American student. Good news is that this was post-collapse of the Soviet Union and the party headquarters had been converted into a beer hall. The pool of fluid had come from spilled beers and the like. But there was a long moment while I was still drunk and all I could think is that I had somehow survived a bloody coup. I once woke up in the back on someone's car completely naked except for the used condom I was still wearing. At least you know you were the sucker and not the fakir. I had just woken up in my apartment after a night of drinking. I wasn't feeling too well, so I ended up throwing up. Hopped in the shower to ease my queasiness and passed out naked on the floor in front of my bathroom. I wake up about an hour later and had to crap. So I'm sitting on the toilet when I hear my TV. I didn't remember turning it on, but I'm severely hungover, so I don't think much of it. All of a sudden I hear little footsteps. I look up and standing in my bathroom door is a little boy of about 1 or 2 years. When I realized I wasn't hallucinating, I noticed the kid's nose was running pretty bad. As the oldest of 4 kids, my first instinct is to wipe the kid's nose. I shove some TP in my butt and put on my boxer briefs. I walk into my living room and sitting on my couch is a little girl, probably about 4 years old. At this point I don't know what to think, so I just wipe the kid's nose and ask the little girl where they came from. She points at my front door. I ask her which apartment they live in and she again points at my front door. I shake my head and tell them to sit tight and watch TV while I finish pooping. As I'm walking back to my bathroom there is a knock on the door. I figure it is the parents looking for their kids, so, without thinking about the fact that I am just wearing underwear, I answer the door. I am greeted by 4 police officers. I immediately realize how bad this looks, so I blurt out, "Hey guys, I just woke up and found these kids in my apartment. Come on in and get him." One of the officers smiles and says hi because he frequents my store. Another calls down to the parents. They came up the stairs and grabbed their kids. Officer just says thanks and I shut the door. It's not really waking up, but when I was in Tokyo for spring break I came out of my blackout after landing on the roof of a 2-story house. I never found out how, but I'm guessing my love of Ninja Warrior played a role. It resulted in 2 broken feet and a group of police officers carrying me down the stairs. I woke up during the night in boxers and a t-shirt outdoors in the middle of February, on a lounge chair at a pool surrounded by puddles of my own vomit. It was not my house. It was not a friend's house. I woke up at around 3 AM, noticed all of this, and none of that registered, so I fell back asleep. I woke up again around sunrise, absolutely freezing, utterly disgusted, and thoroughly confused. Apparently I got sick tired while walking home from the bar and stopped in some person's yard along the route home. Fortunately it is a shore town, so it was abandoned for the winter. I stole a towel from their yard for warmth and walked the rest the way home. You're lucky you didn't die from hypothermia. I slept on an inflatable bed in my gay friend's front room. He was sleeping on a sofa bed roughly 8 feet away. I woke up in the morning to a huge fight. He had kissed and fricked his boyfriend's straight twin brother while all 3 of them were in the bed. The top floor of a 2-floor McDonald's around 6 AM on a Sunday, wearing nothing but a bathing suit. They almost always had the top floor chained off. I came downstairs to a large crowd of old people getting their morning coffee. I don't think any of the employees noticed me slink down the stairs and out the door. Woke up in race car bed, on a roof. I brought a bottle of absinthe home for Thanksgiving. For those in the US unfamiliar with absinthe, as the real stuff is banned here, it contains a chemical called fujone that supposedly makes you hallucinate. In reality, it just gives you a stone drunk feeling. Most bottles have 5-10 milligrams of the stuff. This bottle had 100 milligrams. Plus it was 150 proof. The wormwood was literally still floating in the bottle. So my mom rarely drinks, so she gets drunk off even just the smell of alcohol. Half a glass of wine and she's crap faced. When she sees the bottle, she asks, "Oh, is that the stuff from Europe?" I answer yes and jokingly offer her a shot, which to my astonishment she takes. My siblings and I are still stunned when in walks my dad. "Dad, mom's one up on your," I told him. "Oh, to heck she is," he replies and takes a shot himself. My brother, sister and I finish the bottle and my parents go off to bed. I woke up next morning covered in blood. There's blood on the carpet and a chunk of my mom's kitchen counter is missing. I wake my sister and ask her what happened last night. Here's the story. My brother is 6 feet 5 inches. I am not. My brother was also trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu by one of the Gracies. I was not. So in my drunken haze, challenging him to a wrestling match may not have been the wisest of decisions. We went at it, and during the match his elbow went through the countertop, breaking a piece off and slicing his arm. My sister said, "You saw he was bleeding and declared yourself the winner, makes sense." I said, "Not really. He had your arm twisted behind your neck and you were crying at the time. Still, I drew first blood, winner. The imagery I have of you, covered in blood, sobbing, and tangled up while declaring yourself the winner through sniffles is amazing. I blacked out one night and woke up with a piece of buttered bread on my nightstand, uneaten, and another piece, butter side down, on my leg. I gathered my wits, started to question my choices in life, and moved all of the clothes and other things off my bed into the chair in my room. I started looking for my jeans that I had worn the night before to locate my debit card, which is usually in the back pocket, and while searching through the pile which had just been on my bed I came upon a plastic bag of unknown origin. When I looked inside I found a rotisserie chicken. So, to recap, I get drunk, I go to the chicken place on my block and get a whole chicken. I get home, decide that is not enough of a snack and butter 2 pieces of bread. I then pass out before eating any of it and sleep with bread on my leg and chicken in my bed. A cat had peed on me. I had passed out in a friend's bathroom while puking and managed to obstruct the litter box. I would say that I smelled like crap, but it was way worse than that. It's summer and the last Harry Potter book has just come out. I am about 30 pages away from finishing it when I realize I am already late for a dinner date with friends. So I put in my bookmark and leave it on my bed. At dinner drink about 2/3 of a bottle of wine. Next, go out and commence lots of drinking. I am very drunk. On the way home, stop by a bodega to get a Gatorade so I won't be quite as hungover, but get drunkenly distracted and spend my last $10 on a 3-pack of P magazines. Yes, magazines. Old school. Arrive home excited about my recent purchase and set up what promises to be a nice end of the night, but realize quickly turn my attention to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, of which I only have about 30 pages left to read. I am easily distracted when drunk. Clearly, I put the pee aside and start to read, but immediately pass out cold. Wake up naked with opened Harry Potter on my chest, tissues and lotion to my side, and an open pee near my feet. Very confused. Don't worry mate, you are not the first and are far from the last person to have had a go to some quality Harry Potter, although considering what goes on in the last 30 pages I have to question your taste a little bit. I hope someone sees this. We were having a house party with a new group in celebration of an event in college, and none of us had drank together before, so we went big. It was at my house. There were a handful of people that stayed the night, and I let some overly drunk sick girls stay in my room, and I crashed on the couch downstairs. In the middle of the night, around 3 AM, I wake up and decide to go check on my girlfriend upstairs. As I turn the corner to start walking up the staircase, there is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. At perfect eye level, about 8 stairs up, is a girl with her pants completely off, in crab walk position, slowly crab walking down the stairs. As she is taking a pee, she was coming towards me, leaving a snail trail all the way down the stairs, soaking the carpet. She is completely wasted and borderline unconscious. She didn't remember it the next day, and I painfully had to explain to her why I needed her to clean the carpet on the staircase. TL. Doctor. Drunk girl fires pee out her cooter as she crab walks down the stairs naked. The Exorcist erotic fanfic right here. I joined just to tell this story. 3 years ago I was an assistant manager for a store in the city I still live in. I worked there for 2 years, and there was a hot girl that would come in sporadically a couple of times a year to purchase things from our store because there wasn't a local store where she lived at the time. New York State. I never really hit on her much because our store was a busy crap show and I knew she had a boyfriend, but some innocent flirting definitely went on. I knew she at least somewhat liked me, because she would always seek me out when she did come in. All in all, I'd say I probably only helped her 6 times over the course of those 2 years I worked there. My last month working that job, I went out one night for a friend of a friend's birthday party. We proceeded to just get blitzed out our minds. At around 11:30 PM, my friends are dancing near one of those ridiculous roped off VIP areas in the bar when they stumble backwards and bump into a small cocktail table and knock the Grey Goose bottle onto the floor, shattering it. The very last thing I remember is arguing with the manager of the bar about how to handle the situation. He was telling us that we needed to pay for the bottle or leave the bar. We obviously decided to leave the bar, because who wants to pay retail hike bar pricing for a bottle of Grey Goose? They walked us out the front door, and I blacked out. I black back in, and the hot girl from New York is in my bed, sucking my dong. I was so confused I actually ripped my schwanz out of her mouth, with my mouth open, stuttering. How I was still so drunk. My first thought was, please tell me I didn't fly to New York, find this girl and fly her back here for one night. I think she realized how confused I was, told me to shush, and kept blowing me. I fricked her for the rest of the night. We wake up, I realize my apartment is a total and utter disaster. I hadn't cleaned that entire week. Dishes are in my sink, just a mess. I tell her I was embarrassed and that I didn't remember a dang thing until I woke up all terrified like. To this day I don't think she liked that. I offer to drive her home without cooking breakfast for her because I was dangerously close to running late for work, and I didn't want to close out my last month like a lazy slob. She tells me she'll come in and visit that day, which she does. I didn't tell a soul at work what I'd done. After all, discretion is the better part of valor. After she left that day, I never talked to her again. A few weeks later we went back downtown to some of the same bars. Literally all night I had random bartenders and barbacks coming up to me, high-fiving me and warning me to not get too crazy like the other night with the hot brunette. You can't be making out with girls on the bar like that anymore. The last time one of these threads came about, a guy told the story of how he would get blackout hammered and end up on an airplane to random destinations. Not once or twice, but continuous reoccurring instances of blacking out and ending up at the airport on a plane. It was an awesome story and I hope he tells it again. Tyler Durden. Passed out at my GF's place for the first time after a Halloween party. Since she still lived with her folks at the time, I was set up in the guest room. Really nice room, all antique stuff. Much homemade red wine was consumed that evening. I was laying in bed, and the room was spinning badly. Started to feel sick, so I reached over to turn on a lamp. Fumbled for a bit, heard a weird sound, couldn't find the light. Instead, I pulled the garbage can to the side of the bed and puked into it. Stumbled to the bathroom, finished puking, back to bed and passed out for good. I woke up the next morning to the dulcet sounds of my GF gently yelling what the frick. With my head throbbing in utter pain, I look around. That weird sound I heard, the glass hurricane lamp that I accidentally tossed across the room, smashing on the floor. The garbage can I pulled over, number. That was the drawer of the antique night table, and I partly missed in my efforts. A nice pile of purple puke, red wine, remember, on the white carpet was smiling back up at me. Apparently my GF's father had woken up earlier in the morning, opened the door to check on me, quickly closed the door and took his wife out for breakfast and coffee. Bless that man, my GF. She's now my wife of 14 years. TLDR. Trashed my future wife's parents' guest room with purple puke the first time they let me sleep over. Edit. Grammar. Your father-in-law is freaking awesome. For a period of time I would get blackout drunk and frick with Tomorrow Me. One of the best examples of this is when I hid my pants, containing my keys, cell phone and wallet, from Tomorrow Me. I even turned the phone off so I couldn't call it. Turns out I hid them in the box spring. It took 45 minutes to find them. Blackout me is such a prick. I have the same thing, even though I think that my blackout self is just retarded. Once I found my phone in the fridge and my wallet in the breadbasket. Woke up to a boom 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 slamming on the door. Laying in bed nacky with my girlfriend at the time. Kinda had to think about what was going on and did a shout into the apartment to see if someone was going to answer the door. One of the other 3 roommates answered the door. It was the cops, naturally. They come in and the 4 of us guys meander out into the living room to see what the commotion is. One of the 2 cops tells us that someone called the cops on us. It is about 7 in the morning and we were all asleep, so we were slightly confused to say the least. As the cops poke around our apartment to see what is going on, they don't seem to find any source of the noise. There is one other guy passed out on our sofa, but he is hugging a trash can so tight he could not have called the cops. One of the officers radios back to their dispatch to see if they can call the phone number back. About a minute later we hear a buzzing and ringing from inside of our apartment. This seemed highly coincidental, so we track down the phone and sure enough it is the emergency dispatch number that had been called initially. We were as confused as the cops and there wasn't much they could do. They went on our way and we were left to figure out who called the cops. This is where things got interesting for us. The phone belonged to a friend of ours that was in town for the weekend. However, that friend was nowhere to be found. After we determined that our friend was no longer with us, we proceeded to call the police drunk tank hospital. Nobody had our little buddy in their possession. His wallet was at the apartment also, which led us to believe that he was in the drunk tank. Most of the day went by and we just played video games waiting for our friend to surface. A cab pulls up some time later and he pops out telling us that he had no idea what happened. Apparently the kid called the cops because he was so drunk he thought he needed help, without making sense to the dispatch. They send someone over but not before this kid walks out of our apartment and goes to who knows where, only to end up dazed and confused. TL. Doctor, our friend called the cops on himself. HRM. My time to shine? 1. Once woke up naked, in a garage, covered in kerosene. 2. Once up to my father telling me that I had to get off the bathroom floor, and to put some dang clothes on. 3. Once woke up to a very large, confused, somewhat angry black guy in my apartment who wandered up there looking for someone. 4. I hadn't been drinking, but my roommate at the time had been. I woke up to blood trails and a bathroom just covered in blood. I mean blood everywhere. 5. Once woke up to a loud pounding noise. Walked downstairs to see a guy smashing veggie soup cans into the wall in different shapes. I think those are the weirdest. Oh, and bonus. I once woke up to my parents leading a co-worker into my room after he had tried to climb into bed with them and my dad saying, "No buddy, you can't sleep in our bed," and him saying, "But I was told it was okay." Yeah, I think we're gonna need you to expand on points 3-5. One time I woke up in the middle of a cornfield and it took me 35 minutes to find the road. Woke up around 2 AM after a night of heavy drinking. I'm pretty sure it was Halloween. Walked into the kitchen to get some water and find my very large, 6'7" and probably 300-400 lbs friend sitting on the floor in nothing but his tighty whities with a half-eaten box of pizza in his lap. He hasn't seen me enter the kitchen yet, but I see him. He then picks up a large slice and proceeds to slap himself in the face with the pizza, over and over again, all the while berating himself for getting so drunk again, being so fat, etc. Funniest, strangest thing I have ever seen. I watched for a few minutes and then went and took the pizza from him. The rest of the night he basically slept in the bathroom, hugging the toilet while puking, still in nothing but his white underwear. Went home with a girl on a one-night stand to an apartment that she lived in by herself. I woke up the next morning to her dad busting in yelling, "Brooke, wake up. Your sister is having a baby and I have been trying to reach you since 1 AM. Yeah, it was a little awkward at first, but it only got worse when she brought me to the hospital with her so she could fake that we were dating and not look like a W in front of her family. I even got to meet the newest member of the family. Went to bed on a one-night stand. Woke up to a birth. That's kinda cool though. Woke up missing the better part of my big toe. I woke up on a sofa in someone's living room. No idea where I was, with a ginger kitten attacking my hand. My friend once woke up in a busy train station with a load of Chinese tourists taking pictures of him. Woke up at 6 AM to my roommate knocking on my door. "Did you bring someone home with you last night?" he says. Don't think so, I say. "Okay, there is someone in our bathroom." I tried to go in but she won't let me in, he says. He hands me a wooden dowel and says maybe I should try. I open the bathroom door, and that is when I started to get a little weird. There is a woman in our bathroom, naked, long string black hair, overweight, hunched over the toilet bowl, top of the tank off to the side, digging around in the tank muttering to herself. The bathtub is overflowing onto the floor a bit. In the bathtub there is a single pair of stockings. I just stare for a moment, jaw dropped, then say, "You can't be here." She turns around and yells, "Get the frick out of my bathroom," and slams the door. So now I am face to face with a door, jaw still dropped. I turn slowly to face my roommate. "Maybe we should call the police," I say. I call 9. 1 and say, okay, there is a naked woman in my bathroom and she won't leave. Can you help? 911 lady says hahaha please don't prank 911 and hangs up. I call back, yeah I am not freaking around, please help. Cops shows up with a look of incredulity on his face. Yes, there is a naked lady in our bathroom. No, we don't want her here. You will understand when you see her. Cops tries to open the door. Door is slammed in his face. He looks at us. He now understands. He pushes door open and lady, still naked, dashes out into the middle of the living room. He starts to move after her. She runs around to the other side of the coffee table. He chases her. They go around the coffee table a few times before he finally catches her. She is now handcuffed in the middle of our living room, naked. The cop looks calmly in my direction, then back at her, then back at me and says, can I borrow a sheet? He covers her up and takes her away. It is now 6:45 am. I go back to bed, but I don't sleep. I just lay there with a WTF cloud drizzling on me for the rest of the day. Woke up at around 7 am on a Thursday in a room I didn't recognize. Took stock of the situation. Blonde asleep next to me, naked except for a beanie. Stained glass Pikachu poster glowing in the window. Pantless, with little splatters of blood all up the arms of my shirt. No visible wounds on either of us. I figured it was high time to bail, so I got dressed as quietly as I could and left. I almost made it back to my dorm scot-free when I passed by the board of visitors, stumbling bedraggled and hungover in a shirt covered in blood. In a park approximately 103 miles away from my house, with nothing in my pockets and also missing a shoe. 103 miles is oddly specific. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.